Welcome this evening. Hey, glad to see everybody joining in here. We're going to have a packed night. We've had a record number of registrations for this event coming off the last couple days. We've got a whole new presentation of new strategies we've put together in the past 2 weeks. Most everything you're going to see tonight is field tested. Everything that you're going to see here that I'm going to roll through tonight is stuff that we've been working with guys in the trenches out of whether it be my dad's practice or our other clients around the U.S. From Seattle and New York all the way down to South Dakota in the middle of nowhere. So all kinds of different market areas, a whole lot of dentists. Everybody's in the same boat right now. And this is probably a historic time that'll never be repeated again in our lifetimes. Unfortunately, that means we're all in the boat together. So we've got a lot of good stuff rolling out here. We still have a few minutes, and I always like to go a few minutes past 7 o'clock. It seems like as soon as everybody gets the registration email at 7 o'clock, it takes them 2 or 3, 4 minutes to jump in. So we're still a couple minutes before 7 o'clock, and we'll give everybody a few minutes to join in here and make sure we don't lose everybody at the beginning of the webinar. But good to see everybody packed in here. I see a lot of familiar names. I see a lot of new names. Would love to hear feedback from everybody as we go through this tonight. If you don't have my email, I'm going to have it on several slides in here. Would like to hear feedback from you. What's going on in your market area? How are things going? I see many of the names here, were on here last week, or at least a couple of them that I recognize offhand. I see some other names that I've had email correspondence with already. We're here to help you whether you're a client or not. Shoot me an email. I'll advance to the next slide here in a few minutes, and you'll have a few opportunities to grab my email address. It's pretty short and easy to figure out. Really excited to show you guys what we've been doing with other practices around the country. Right now, we do have to give you just kind of some optics on what we're seeing. We have some practices that are completely closed down. Pennsylvania comes to mind. New York comes to mind. Florida, we have some doctors in Florida that come to mind. We have other states that are so far more unaffected by what's happening. Texas comes to mind. And then we've got other states, and the vast majority are on an emergency only basis. In that emergency only vein, which I'm going to talk about a little bit today, I know some guys love emergency, some guys don't. I want to tell you a couple stories about a couple of our doctors that are using emergencies as a stopgap to get through this time and how they've been able to pivot with that. And I also want to tell you about some other doctors that love emergencies that are just killing it right now because all the other docs in their area are closed down. So got a whole bunch of information. You'll have to give me a few breaks to have a little sip of water here. After I start talking for extended periods of time, it starts to sound like I have the COVID virus. I had somebody on the last webinar, they sent me a private chat, and they said, Colin, why are you drinking Miller High Life? And I guess they thought my Pellegrino can looked like a Miller High Life. They obviously didn't know me really well. If you know me, if I drink beer, it's going to be something crafty and fun. I've had a couple sour beers lately that have been interesting. I've never really been into beer a whole lot, but the sours are definitely kind of an interesting twist. So I've enjoyed a few of those as we've been staying here at home lately. And anybody want to prompt up? I always like to start off every meeting I have with what I call a positive power up. going into times like this and meetings, especially when there can be stress, it's good to have a frame of mind that everything's not bad in the world. And I remember when I first started doing positive power-ups, my team kind of looked at me like I had fallen off my rocking chair. And it's not about, artificial frou-frou, tell me what's good in your life. It truly changes your mindset when you can start off with just a couple quick, nice things. Go around, takes 30 seconds. I challenge you to implement that into your own meetings and to see what kind of change that makes, to get to know people a little bit more on a personal level, a little bit more relationship, and it takes literally 30 seconds off the front of your team meetings. I've been enjoying the time at home the last couple of weeks. We've been, SmartBox, we've always been a remote company, and we've always allowed all of our people to work remote a few days a week. So, really going remote for us with this coronavirus situation wasn't a big change. We've been remote now for 12 days, fully remote. And, it's been kind of fun. I'm in my home office right now. And oddly enough, this is actually where I started the company, here literally in this same office. The first 6 employees came here to my house and worked here out of my basement. I've got a walkout basement you can't see, but it walks out here behind me, and did that up until 2014. And 2014, we hired our 7th employee, and then we moved to the offices that we're in now. And currently we have a team of somewhere around 70 people, primarily based out of the Louisville market, Louisville, Kentucky. But we've got people that are remote around the country. We've got employees in California, Georgia, West Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, Michigan, as well as, a couple of local states around here: Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee. So we've really had a diversified workforce, and we were thankful for that. It didn't really have, the remote thing wasn't such a big change as it was for some businesses in that respect. So let's jump in here. Let's get rocking and rolling. Looks like the registrations are still coming in, but you snooze, you lose. So let's rock and roll. Welcome to tonight's Thriving During Difficult Times webinar. This is going to be a weekly webinar that we're going to push on every week. And every week, we're going to be coming back here with new strategies. We're going to show you what we're doing in the field, what's working, and what we're doing right now. Realize we're all in this thing together. Your success is always our success, and we're fully committed to supporting and helping all dentists. If you're a current client or a future client, email me, please. Email me and let me know what's going on in your market. What are you doing that's working or not working? How are you being affected? We have clients in almost 50 states. We're still looking for a client in Alaska. I've already called dibs that when we get a client in Alaska, I'm going up there for the video shoot myself, because I love fishing up there in Canada and Southern Alaska. So we have clients in 49 states, every conceivable market area, from major metro to ultra rural. In the middle of South Dakota is probably our most remote practice that we work with. They all have unique challenges. They're all a little different. They all want different kinds of patients. And we help them all. And the strategies that we're going to talk about tonight apply equally to practices that are closed and practices that are open. I was talking to a good friend of mine earlier today, Mike Abernathy and Max Gocher over at Summit Practice Solutions. And I said, Max and I were talking, and the conversation around coronavirus came up. And we were talking about how we're seeing doctors, dentists preparing for what's about to happen. And we kind of, after talking through it, we said we got to the conclusion that there's going to be two different buckets of dentists that we're going to see as this coronavirus moves forward. We're going to see the guys that close down their practice or they go emergencies only and they do some hit and miss stuff. And they don't think about how they're going to ramp up their practice until probably a week or two after they reopen. You know, they're going to come back to the practice, their whole staff's going to show up, or part of their staff's going to show up, and their schedule is going to be empty. They're going to be sitting around twiddling their thumbs, and a week or two is going to pass before they really pull the trigger on getting the gears moving. There's other dentists that are making a commitment to excellence, like yourself, and you're spending your time, presumably of course, in the evening, when you are closed or open, or you've got certainly, each of you can probably name 10 things you'd rather be doing than listening to Colin rant on a webinar. And you guys are going to be the ones that slingshot out of this thing. And you're going to have the plans in place when you come back in the office, the strategies, and you're going to have full schedules. I'm going to show you how to do all that tonight. I'm going to show you how to budget through this corona crisis. We're going to show you cash flow strategies. And I'm going to keep this thing under an hour. There's going to be a whole bunch of links and handouts as we go through this webinar. You don't have to write them all down. Don't be scrambling to try to write down the links as we go through this. This webinar is being recorded. I'm going to send out a recording afterwards. I'm going to send out all the links so you can click on them. I'm going to give you a copy of the presentation so you've got all the information, because at the end of the day, if all you do is listen to me talk here and you don't go back and implement, you're going to get zero. The value and success you have is going to round to zero. The magic of what I'm going to show you tonight is taking these back into your business, into your practice, and implementing them, and execution on the plan. Tonight, I'm going to show you how to build the strategy, right? That's the first step. I'm going to show you how to build it and what we're doing. The next step is to build your strategy, right? You're going to take bits and pieces out of what I show you tonight, and some of it's going to be relevant and some stuff's probably not going to be. And then the next piece is execution. And we can help you as much or as little as you want across these. What I'm giving you tonight and all the free tools and strategies are yours to take, whether you ever send me a nickel or not. I would love to hear from you and help you through this time, whether you're a client of ours or not, which is why we've invited not only current clients, but all future clients of SmartBox as well here. There's 5 things we're going to hit on tonight. We're going to talk about remote diagnosis and what our doctors are doing successfully right now with the teledentistry. We're also going to give you a patient security and safety plan. I'm going to tell you what that means here in just a couple minutes. We're going to show you what thriving dental practices are doing right now. I think if you watch the news, you'd probably think there aren't any. I promise you, there's a whole lot of them. And there's also a whole lot that are having a really difficult time right now. And there's a whole lot that this is out of their control. The state has mandated they shut down. Just this week, I got an email from a dentist friend in Pennsylvania who told me that Pennsylvania is now mandating that a dentist have a negative pressure operatory with HEPA filtration in order to do any procedure, regardless of whether it's dealing with anything aerosolized or whatever that word is. I'm not a dentist. I'm just trying to look good and repeat what I'm being told. But I read the order from Pennsylvania and it blew me away. But there's some stuff out there that's just kind of crazy right now, and we're all going to get through it together. I'm going to show you how to forecast 2020. I'm going to show you how to make the gap up. Right now, the big fear I'm hearing from guys is not only how am I going to have the cash flow to maintain my practice and get through this gap. I'm also hearing guys say, how much is my income going to take a hit this year? How much money am I going to make? I'm going to show you how to figure that out. And I'm going to show you how to close the gap and how to make the same amount of money this year that you did last year. And I'm going to give you the spreadsheet. And you can plug in your own numbers so you can see and you can go through this exactly for yourself. I'm going to give you the cash flow strategies so that you are going to be able to set up your practice, your people, your patients, and you, the guy who signs the checks, to thrive through these difficult times. And then I'm going to show you about some team evaluation and how to level them up during slow periods. The beauty of this level up strategy is it works not only now in the midst of this coronavirus thing that we're dealing with. It works over Thanksgiving. It works over Christmas. It works over the spring break. If you're slow over spring break, it works over the week of July 4th. All those times when you're sitting around looking at your team going, gosh, I guess we're just going to have them clean the office again. Why don't you go, we're going to do a deep cleaning on the office. That's what's we're going to happen this week. And we're going to organize everything. Well, that stuff's great, but we can also leverage that time to grow our team, to increase their performance so that during the times when patients are calling, you're making more money. You're getting more out of it. And we're going to go through that. There's going to be 4 things we talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the practice, right? We've got to care for the practice. There's 4 things we've got to take care of to keep this thing humming along. We got to take care of the practice. The practice is the living body, right? If the body dies, the patients, the team, and everything else also dies. Not literally, of course, but figuratively speaking, the practice is the body. We've got to keep your team, the people, on board, maybe not full time, and I'm going to talk through strategies with that. We've got to keep your patients on board, and patients have a lot of angst right now around this whole thing, and we've got to keep you on board, right? The 4 P's, we've got to take care of each one of these to make sure that this thing is balanced and we're seeing this through. Let's talk about strategy 1. Here we go. Strategy number 1, the patient security and safety plan. The biggest thing, one of the biggest things, maybe not the biggest, that's going to keep your patients from coming to see you after you reopen is they don't feel safe. This COVID thing, even after your practice opens back up, this COVID thing is not going away. Just because they develop a malaria cocktail with some hydrochloroquine and some other drugs, and it cures this, doesn't mean that your patients are automatically just going to go back to their regular work, right? Just this morning, news came out that France, Germany, and the United States are all experiencing a 0.4% mortality rate, as opposed to the 3 to 4% stuff that's been coming out of Italy and some other countries. And I think people are starting to realize that maybe this thing was really underdiagnosed. Maybe Italy had an old population in bad health, and that was a bad combination. And maybe China didn't even tell us the truth from the beginning. Who knows? We won't know the truth for another year probably. But the biggest piece here is we've got to make our patients absolutely safe. And I don't mean telling them you do a little bit extra sterilization. I mean putting in stuff in place that just is a feel-good measure. Tell extra people, if you're not a patient, you can wait in the car. If you are a patient, wait in your car, taking the magazines and things out of your waiting room so that there's not extra surfaces. Some doctors right now are limiting their office to 1 patient at a time and doing extra sterilization and disinfecting between each patient. Now, right now, when we're in the middle of this hysteria, that works well, right? You reopen and you got a full schedule, limiting to 1 patient may not be the right approach. Having patients check in and then wait in their car is a lot better. Non-patients always stay in the car. You might want to pause on the coffee machines and the disposable things that everybody touches, right? We've prepared a letter for you here. I'm not going to click on this now because it'll flip my screens up. This letter is available to you. I'm going to send you this link in this letter afterwards. You can distribute this letter to your patients, and it's going to give them the safety and the security that we are protecting the vulnerable. We are your people. These are the best practices that every practice needs to have. I said in my last webinar that you guys are unique. You have started your own practice and you're running things because you do things a little bit different. And your patients know that and they believe you're different. Your team knows you're different. And I think you do too. And this is the time to triple down on how you're different and how you're really going to take care of your patients. And this is just one more way you show them how you care. Strategy, the other half of this. Let's talk about how we can leverage remote diagnostics and also consults. I'm going to tell you about a doctor that's killing it right now in a state that has recommended all practices close except for emergencies, and he's killing it with remote consults in the implant arena. That's going to come on 2 slides from now. Stay tuned. Remote diagnosis, we've got a whole strategy guide built out around doing remote diagnosis and how that works. We've also got our virtual smile assessment tool. This can go on your social media. This can go on your website. If you're a client, you get it for free. If you're not a client, we'll email it to you. You'll have to integrate it into your website yourself, obviously, but I'm happy to give this away. This is a tremendous tool, and this isn't just a COVID thing. The remote trend, Carvana, DoorDash, everything is going delivery and remote. That's what people want. Telemedicine is a huge growing sector right now, and what's happening right now is pouring jet fuel on that fire. Giving your patients the option to meet you where they're comfortable and allowing them to communicate with you and realize the purpose of a remote consult is not to clinically diagnose them. And that's what often gets mixed up when I talk to doctors about this. We're not trying to figure out what exact options for them there are in a remote consult. It's starting a relationship. It's starting a conversation. And remote consults are proven to accelerate sales cycles, especially in larger cases. We don't need to be doing remote consults for every new GP patient that just needs to come in and get a new patient x-ray and exam. If you're doing Invisalign, if you're doing implants, or if you want to be known as the emergency doctor, those are 3 good deployments of this tool and of this strategy. You got to meet people where they're comfortable. That's all this comes down to. Strategy number 2, let's talk about some emergency strategies. Right now, we're recommending that dentists turn off all their paid media except for the patients that they're trying to attract. And right now, there's only 2 of them. There's emergencies and there's implants. And I'm going to tell you about these back to back. Emergencies are a tremendous sector right now. And they're both occupying as a stopgap for dentists that really don't like to do emergencies and that's not their thing. Well, we're seeing $1.5 million practices that are able to do $30,000 to $40,000 a month on an emergency basis only right now. And obviously that's prorated because we're only 2 weeks into this crisis. You can close the gap on your revenue and your goals for this year by putting in place some emergency strategies. If you don't have your calls answered around the clock, you should. Nobody's going to leave you a voicemail. This isn't a voicemail society anymore. My kids don't even know what voicemails are. They say, Dad, just text me. My 7-year-old just got texting on his iPad. It's really scary. He's texting me back and forth now. These kids are never going to know what voicemails are. It's all instant communication and texting. And that's the way society is going. It's not just this younger Gen Z and millennial and Gen X. That's where we're at as a society. People don't leave voicemails anymore, especially new patients. 14 days for free, test drive Pat Live. We have a script developed with Pat Live. If you sign up with Pat Live, we'll send you our script. We'll save you the learning curve. You can implement it like that. Whether you're a client or not, send me an email. I'll send you our script. I'll get it loaded into your Pat Live for you. This is all about showing people you care and you're concerned by having the respect to answer them live. You know, this sets you apart. This is how high performance premium practices operate these days. Emergencies are open in most every state still. I know there are some that are not. I'm not making blanket statements tonight. You all know that's probably a crazy thing to try to do right now, is make any blanket statement. But remember, the patient security and safety plan is paramount here. You've got to make these guys feel super safe. And if the emergency is under $200, it's just a cash payment, right? Whatever your office policy is, if it's under $200, it's just pay cash. No co-pays. We'll file your insurance, right? And we'll send you a check back. But you've got to realize when you're doing a lot of the emergency stuff, you may never see these patients again. If you don't collect, you're probably not going to. And invoicing and chasing and hoping the insurance pays, and especially right now, you need to be putting cash in your bank account. You need to be depositing the Benjamins, right? If it's under $200, pay in cash, right? If it's over that, still pay $200 in cash or however you want to work that out, and still take care of them, file their insurance and do all that good stuff. I also want to call out here, in addition to Pat Live, in addition to our virtual smile assessment tool, we've got a whole suite of other remote tools, automated text and email reminders, two-way mass text communication, our AI chatbot, online scheduling. All these tools are what your patients want. It's not just the coronavirus, it's 2020. And next year is going to be 2021. And we live in a digital instant gratification, I don't want to talk to you society. And these tools allow you to meet your patients where they're at. Strategy number 3, implant strategies. I told you a couple slides ago, I was going to tell you about a doctor of ours that is killing it with large implant restorative dentistry. He's only doing all on 4, all on 6 protocols. I want to tell you a quick story about him, and then I'll get into the nuts and bolts of the strategy. So this particular doctor has been doing this for about 10 years now. Started off doing some singles and whatnot, and now anything that is not a full arch, he gives to his associates. He only does the surgery. He even gives the restorative side to his associates. I mean, he's grown this implant engine into a beast. And what he's doing, because you can't do, obviously, elective case surgery right now in the state he's in, is he's still doing consults, right? He's still having a conversation with them. If they're comfortable and they want to have that conversation in person, great. Come into the office, patient security plan. There's only going to be one patient in the office. We're going to sit 6 foot apart, and I'm going to walk you through this thing. If you want to do remote, great. We've got a remote tool that I can walk you through this, and then I can get on a video chat just like this and tell you about your options with a pretty concise, pretty narrowed in selection of which is going to work for you. Obviously, it doesn't replace a CAT scan. This doctor has a CAT scan in his office, and he's going to tell them that. Listen, here, judging by your case, we can help you. You may have been told before you didn't have enough bone. I rarely see that as a problem, but we'll confirm that when you come in and get a CAT scan, that everything looks good. Here's how we do this. Here's the, and he goes through, he's got a whole presentation. He's got a whole financial options that he walks through. And last year, he had a 57% close rate on implant consultations. He charges $247 for the consultation. And that includes your x-ray and exam. And he is killing it. I can't tell you, everybody's expectation was that elective case was going to dry up when this happened. And this is in a small suburban Midwest market in the US. If I told you who and where it was, you'd go to their website and you'd go, this guy, he's not in like Las Vegas. He's not on the coast. It's crazy. And we're seeing this with other implant doctors that are taking these strategies as well. Patients are sitting at home. They're not spending money on vacation. They're not spending money on trips. They're not having workers over to their house to remodel because they're in their house and nobody remodels in their house. They're not spending money right now. Everybody is scared. And this particular segment of the market pays a lot of these bills out of their retirement funds, their 401ks. There is a concern that I've talked through that with the market also being down at the same time as this coronavirus, that may dry up some of the availability of 401k funds. Thus far, we're not seeing that. His phone is absolutely ringing off the hook. He had 13 implant consultations last week, and 8 of them moved forward. Now, he can't do the surgeries until the state recommends that he be allowed to reopen. He's not going against the recommendation for obvious reasons. However, he's offering them a small discount to get in line. If you want me to do your case, I'm your guy, and I'm going to take great care of you. I'm going to give you a small discount, and we're going to get you booked in as soon as this thing's over, and we can get you in here. And he's collecting 95% of the fee up front. It's remarkable. And he has literally, really no impact from this. The biggest impact this particular doctor is going to have is that he's got 3 months of surgeries already booked out as soon as the state allows him to open. If you want more information on this particular doctor, I'm not going to share it here in a public setting. I'm happy to share some more details in a private setting where I think that's more appropriate. So implant practices right now are thriving. If you've built your expert status, it's going really well for you. If you're doing mass market TV, radio, billboard, you need to be calling those guys and negotiating your rate, telling them, hey, listen, we got to bring this thing down right now. You know how things are at. This is really tough. Paid and remote consults, don't break your process. If you have a process set up that's closing at 50 or 60%, it's really important that you keep the wheels spinning, right? Follow the playbook. Follow the playbook. You've got your playbook. You know how you run these plays. We want to keep the same behaviors going. Even though this is remote, don't get relaxed with how you're presenting yourself. If you normally show up in a tie, show up in a tie. If you got a white coat on, wear it. You want to be 100% comfortable in your own shoes when you're doing these. And remote consultations were approved by Delta and some other insurers as well. So this is all really good news. There's also remote tools available, Zoom or Hangouts, Google Hangouts. Google's giving away all their premium features for free right now. So a lot of good stuff happening in that arena. Strategy number 4. This is Avi, a longtime friend of mine who has a very unique business helping dentists to maximize the sleep apnea side of their business. And he's got a special program put together right now for this COVID crisis. Now, what he's extended to me is the ability to discount. He's doing a sleep webinar where you can get all the details around this thing. He usually does like 3-day live events. Because of this COVID thing, he's not. So he's doing like a 2-day, it might even be a 3-day live event where he's walking you through all the nuts and bolts of how to do sleep in your practice. The beauty of what he's done is he has a fully remote and turnkey telemedicine system. He can take this whole thing from start to finish while your office is closed down. And all you have to do is talk to your patients and go through those steps with them also remotely. If you want to take advantage of this, this thing is designed to educate dentists how to keep treating patients for OSA, even if their practices are closed. The home sleep test results, his company handles the diagnosis by a board certified physician that's licensed to practice in the required state, and the prescription for the appropriate treatment, whether that's a CPAP or an oral appliance, and then that comes right back to you to fulfill on that. So if you want to check on this, if you want to get in on that, this webinar is coming up. You can go to this link here. Again, I'll send the link out to everybody afterwards, and you can get more information there on that. Strategy number 5, forecasting 2020. Every doctor I know is concerned about 2 things right now. How am I going to get through this time and conserve my cash? And secondly, how am I going to earn a living this year, and how much money am I going to make? Those are the 2 questions everybody wants to know. I'm providing a budget here. This is a budget that I worked out earlier this week. We're helping doctors to figure out their cash forecast and their budgets. You can have the spreadsheet. This link right here will take you right to the spreadsheet, and you can download it. This particular doctor had a $1.2 million practice last year. They were on track to do about $1.4 million this year when all this stuff happened. Out of that 1.2 to 1.4, he was planning on making high 500s this year. If you download this budget and plug in your numbers, you'll understand how we worked through all this, where we're negotiating, what levers we're pulling. Failing to plan is planning to fail. If you don't take the time to figure out your budget and your cash flow, bank error in your favor only happens in monopoly. I don't know how else to say that. This particular doctor is projecting a net $20,000 loss for the entire 2020. He was planning on making about 580, and with this revised budget and really working on this, he's going to be making around 560. I don't know any doctor in the world that would be unhappy with that. He's done the hard work and he's done the hard lifting. The reality is, if you can close the gap this year, if we're closed down for 4 to 6 weeks, you need to raise your production 15 to 20% over 16 to 20 weeks. That's how the math works out. If you can do this, you'll make the same money this year. And if you take the time to lay out your budget and dive into how those numbers work, you'll understand how to do it in your practice. During the shutdown, we have a lot of doctors who are trying to keep their staff on board. Some have that luxury, others have had to slim down, or some have had to close completely. And I see this time, this is a perfect opportunity to train and develop your people. If you aren't happy with your people's performance, any slow time, Christmas, Thanksgiving, July 4th, spring break, fall break, coronavirus, all these times are perfect. As I talked about before, our data shows that 16 to 20 weeks of increased production will make up this shutdown, and it'll get you back on track for 2020. Now, your revenue will still be down, but you're going to make up for that because you're going to negotiate your expenses. And I'm going to show you all about that here in just a few minutes. The most powerful lever that you have at your disposal to do this is the 5 A's. The 5 A's is our very specific set of strategies that's going to focus on 5 areas of your practice. And it's going to maximize the money in your bank account. There's 5 things you need to do in your practice. Answer, appoint, attend, accept, and have an average case size or an average patient value that you're following. How many calls are you answering? How many that you answer get appointed? How many that you appoint attend? How many that attend accept treatment? And how many, what is the average of that treatment that they're accepting? Here's the math. Wherever you're at today, if you're answering 5% of your calls or 95% of your calls, if you're appointing 30% of the patients that call, and believe me, I've seen it, and it surprises the doctor every time, or you're appointing 60% of the patients you call, if you've got a 60% attendance rate, show up rate, or you got a 90%, wherever you're at on this scale, here's the math. If you increase each stage 10%, a meager 10%, if instead of answering 70% of your calls, you challenge your team and you teach them how to answer 80%. And this isn't just telling Susie to go do her job better. That's not why your team is answering 70% of their calls. Excuse me. There's specific reasons and strategies behind each of these 5 A's. We go through all of this in our Success Academy, and we're giving a bunch of this away to you tonight. If you increase each stage 10%, you double the revenue, double. So if you're answering 60% and you go to 70%, if you're getting 60% appointed and you move that to 70% and you do that all the way down the funnel, you double your revenue. It seems crazy, but it's just simple math. And this isn't spreadsheet leadership, right? We're not going to take our spreadsheet to our team and say, you got to do this. This is your goal. Go do this, Susie. You got to do better. That doesn't work. You all have maybe had consultants that tried the spreadsheet management approach before, and you had an insurrection in your office. That's not how this thing works. The math drives the strategy. The strategy has to support the people, right? And that's the magic. You can't give a spreadsheet to your people and hope that it works, because it doesn't. It'll turn them against you. In fact, we're offering Success Academy. You can get your whole team in Success Academy right now for no charge. We'll tell you how to do that here in a little while. You can close the gap. Remember, the Empire State Building and the Golden Gate Bridge were both built during the Great Depression. Great things can be built during adversity, but you have to start building today. If you don't start building, it's not going to happen. Right now, we're hearing that things may be open by Easter. Whether you believe that or not, that's what they've said. It may be later. It may be sooner in your state. Nobody knows. And that's part of the anxiety here, is nobody really knows for sure what's going to happen. We've got to be developing these strategies for every possible scenario. And that's how you're going to slingshot out of this deal on the back end. Hey, what a coincidence. My next slide. How are we going to immediately slingshot out of this? I'm going to throw the book at you here. This is all stuff that our top performing clients are doing right now. Patients, dentistry is not going away, folks. Patients still need care. You're going to reopen in the future, and your patients are going to need care. They're going to need somewhere to go. Now, the psychology of risk and reward is this. If I tell you you have a 90% chance of dying, you're going to make a different decision than if I tell you you have a 10% chance of living. This is psychology. So unfortunately, our news cycles right now are telling everybody about the percentage of death that exists out there and the percentage of everything bad. We tend to weight those risks heavier than if they simply talked about the flip side of the success rate. This is how we work as people. So we've got to weight these things to make sure that we are being fair in our assessment of where we're really at. We went through the 2008 recession. I started SmartBox in 2001. We went through the 2008 recession. We've been there, done that. Dentists that didn't prepare came out of this recession, and they suffered for 14 to 16 months longer and experienced 38% lower revenue than those that were proactive. Across 15,000 practices right now, as of last week, 15,000 practices in the US that we have optics into right now. 2 weeks ago, 44% of all of their patient base had no future appointment. As of last week, that 44% has risen to 52%. I'm going to tell you, our base of patients across 15,000 practices is millions and millions of patients. That 44 to 52% future appointment is indicative of what's going to happen to most practices when this thing's all over. That 52% is going to grow to 70 or 80%. And the majority of practices in this country are going to walk back to empty chairs, holes in their schedule, and their staff standing around twiddling their thumbs. If you don't get proactive on solving this problem, that's what's going to happen. If you think that you're just going to open your doors and in 2 or 3 weeks, it's just going to start back up, that's not the reality of how this works. We've done this before. We've seen this. If this thing is short term, being closed is going to be like a long holiday vacation. And we've got to make sure that when we come back, we're ready to spin up. We're going to give everybody, if you don't have dental intel already, we're going to get you dental intel for free. If you already have dental intel, we're going to get you local med for free. If you already have local med, we'll get you dental intel for free, right? Dental intel is going to do a magic thing for you. It's going to show you, and we've already pre-populated everybody's dental intel with specific reports designed to mine inside your database and tell you where are your hygiene broken and unscheduled since March 16th? Where's your restorative broken and unscheduled since March 16th? Who are your preferred patients post-pandemic once we all reopen? Who's abandoned? Who's this week and next week? Who's your high-risk patients that need a different message around this patient security plan probably than the rest of them? They need a stronger message around safety. If you have EagleSoft, Dentrix, or Open Dental, we're going to hook you up with dental intel in about 30 minutes. It's that quick, and you're going to have access to this enormous amount of data. One of the best things you also need to be focused on right now in making sure you're caring for your cash flow is what's your AR look like? What are your insurance claims look like? Have you already filed all those? Go get the unfiled insurance claims, look at your AR, look at how these insurance companies are paying you and who owes you money. And we need to go beat the bushes on this and make sure we're getting paid. This cash flow is going to be critical to bridge this gap. Now, if you aren't able to get dental intel because you don't have a practice management system that's one of those three, we can still show you how to run those reports. So give us a call. We'll help you through it. Strategy number 6, how are we going to figure out cash flow for your practices? I'm going to give you a quick crash course in real estate. Everybody, I think, has kind of heard of cap rates, and that's how real estate is bought and sold. If you have real estate at a 6 to 8% cap rate, which is pretty standard in any active cash flow, active investment, 50% of your rent is their break-even point. That's how the math works out. I've got commercial and residential real estate. I'm speaking from experience and from an understanding of how this industry works. You need to be negotiating with your landlord to get a 30 to 50% reduction over the next 3 to 6 months on this guy. Fannie and Freddie have paused all evictions and foreclosures. You don't need to defer your rent. We're all in this together, and we've all got to make concessions to get through this together. If you're having trouble right now, utilities all across the country are suspending payments. Small business relief programs, the small business SBA is rolling out forgivable loans. I have not read the final copy. The draft copy allowed for up to $100,000 of salary forgiven if you don't lay off your people based on last year's numbers. So they're going to look at your employment levels. You can get forgiveness for rent as well. Everybody, if you haven't applied for an SBA loan yet, send me an email. I'll shoot you what you need to know and how to go do it in all the forms. It's a little bit of work, but you're going to get cash to float you through this. And then the government has already said in writing in this new bill, it's going to be forgiven if you spend it on what you say you're going to spend it on: your people and your rent and keeping your practice alive. If you go lay off all your people and go buy a new boat, they're not going to forgive your loan, and they probably shouldn't. If you're trying to keep your business afloat, you need to go apply for this loan right now. Tonight, it's available. The disaster relief program is what this link is here, and there's even state-by-state info. Cash flows for your team. How are you thinking about keeping your team on board? I'll tell you, the first thing that I'm recommending is that you offset this stimulus program against your team's salary. If your people make under $75,000 a year, they're going to get a $1,200 check in their pocket. Your team should not be getting a raise while you, as the business owner, are in a state of crisis and closed down and figuring all this out. If you're paying your people and they're still there, you need to offset their wages against this stimulus program. There are options to avoid layoffs. You can reduce hours, you can reduce pay. Again, what do we need to do to get through this? I know a lot of people in life. I know a lot of dentists, and the ones that are generally passive and afraid of having a tough conversation are going to have a difficult time talking about some of these things. We've got some verbiage and some tips that we can give to help you. Also realize the new sick leave law that they just passed takes effect April 2nd. If you have under 50 employees, you can get a waiver if it's going to be detrimental to your business. The sick leave law also expires at the end of this year. Basically, what it means is that you are required to give 80 hours of sick pay at minimum 2/3 their normal rate. The nice part about this is it's fully reimbursable by Uncle Sam. Refundable tax credits. Gotta love refundable tax credits. You have to front the cost as the employer, but you get reimbursed by Uncle Sam within 3 months through that mechanism, through your payroll tax. Furloughing workers. You may not want to say lay off. Furlough is a nice, softer word that indicates you have an intention to bring them back. Furloughing them without pay, without benefits. But as you're looking at this, you definitely want to make sure you bring your A team back, your A players. And that's really important that you maintain communication with your people through this. Let's talk about cash flow strategies for you. You're the owner. The book is being thrown at this situation right now. Federal student loans have been paused, interest-free. Private student loans have the same. They have a couple different little nuances around them, whether what company you go through, you'll have to go look it up. You get 3 months of cash float. They're giving you a 3-month loan for free, no interest. All tax returns, federal and most state returns, have been pushed back to July 15th. Here's a link you can go see when your state's tax returns are due. Indiana has followed suit with federal. Obviously, if you're owed a refund, go ahead and file right now, right? If you're an associate dentist or you are in a refund situation, great. Go ahead and get that done. Sally Mae is offering a 3-month pause. Navient on the student loans is offering a 3-month pause. Wells Fargo has indicated that they're going to help, but they didn't issue a specific guidance on their policy. If you don't know about, if you don't have a really good CPA that can take good care of you, reach out to me. There are some nuances in this. If you're turbo taxing it up, I'm concerned you're going to get into a pitfall. There's going to be a little pile of doo-doo you're going to step in as you're navigating these very fast-moving and complex economic stimulus packages and returns and credits. I know some really, really good CPAs that work only with dentists. I can make some recommendations to you. We don't have any individual relationships. I don't get kickbacks. I'll give you a couple names and you go do the investigation and figure out who's right for you. Strategy number 7, you got to level up your team. this is a great time to create the team-driven practice. Our Success Academy is going to walk you through it. We're going to get your whole team into Success Academy. And of course, with the power of virtual tools, whether it's Zoom or Uber Conference or Google Hangouts, all this is easy. If you don't know what Success Academy is, here's the workbook. Go check it out. If you want to get into the Academy, just shoot me an email. We'll get you into we'll get you the information you need to get signed up. We're putting a 6-week program together for our dentists that doesn't cost a dime to help them fight this coronavirus. Whether you're a client, excuse me, current client, or a future client, we're going to get you into this workbook strategy, and it's going to, in our Success Academy, and help you guys build a team-driven practice so that you're off rocking and rolling when your practice reopens. Like I told you before, you need to have 16 to 20 weeks of increased production to make up for this close down. You need the 5A strategy to help you figure that out. If you can increase each of your 5As 10%, you double your revenue. To help you and your team get started, all these free resources are yours to start leveraging immediately. This workbook is yours to go download immediately, and I'll send all that out in the video and the link afterwards here in just a few minutes. I want to walk you guys through and show you what we're doing for our dentist, as well as if you're not a client yet. We're offering this 6-week COVID-19 response plan to everybody. And this is a 6-week program around what you need to be doing in your practice to thrive and to be prepared to slingshot out of this. Week 1, we're going to get letters mailed out to your patients, up to 250 copies at no charge. We're going to get you into Success Academy and Dental Intel and get your whole team enrolled so that you're maximizing this strategy. You're not going to walk back into an empty practice. Week 3, social media, smile assessment tool, all the stuff I've already talked about above. We're just going to roll it out for you in a real easy plan. And we're going to do all the heavy lifting for you. Rave Reviews, our automated review system. Local 360, our local search optimization tool. Again, all available to current and future SmartBox clients at no charge. Social media content calendar, right? We're going to show you how to implement the safety and security patient plan into your website, into all of your social media so that patients are going to feel safe. And then at the end of all this, at the end of the 6 weeks, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. We're going to do our Success Academy evaluation. We're going to go through with your team, grade them, help them understand where you really need to focus on to get to that next level. And then we're also going to do a tour of our Practice HQ. So during the first 6 weeks, we've been listening, if you take us up on our offer, we've been listening to all the calls coming into your practice. We're going to tell you what percentage of calls your practice is answering, what percentage are actually appointing, who in your practice, if you have multiple people answering the phone, how they're each appointing patients, right? And then attending, accept, and average, we're going to show you all that straight out of Dental Intel. It's going to give you absolute clarity of all the numbers in your practice. If you have spreadsheets that your manager or you have somebody typing spreadsheets feverishly and tracking things and crunching things, you're going to reclaim all that lost time. This is going to automate it for you, and it's completely free for you to try out. If you want more information, email me. I'll get you all the information over to get set up. Our team is standing by to help you with this. If you're a current client or not, a future client, we're here to support you. We're here to help all of dentistry through this crisis that we're currently operating in. Reach out to me. Reach out if you're a current client. You already know Stacy, our VP of Client Success. You have a dedicated client success manager, reach out to. If you don't have their contact information, reach out to me. I'll connect you with them. We're here to help you implement these strategies and to rock and roll. right? We're going through a time, and we're going to go through this together, and we're going to pop out on the other side. And if you aren't prepared for that slingshot out the other side, you're going to see the same thing in your practice that we saw during the 2008 recession. And that is, you're going to have significantly depressed revenues for a significant amount of time. 34% over for longer than a year will be down, because all the other docs in your area are going to have strategies like this, or some of them, the top performing ones. I'm assuming you guys are on here because you've already made a commitment to excellence, a commitment to growing your practice and thriving even during difficult times. I'm going to open this up for questions now. I'm 3 minutes under an hour. I've never done a webinar and actually been on time. So I'm really happy that we got this right in under an hour. Let's have some Q&A. I've already got some questions in here floating in. Thank you, Dr. McGowl. Appreciate it. Yeah, Dr. Eccles, you will get a copy of the video. We're also going to be posting a copy of this video onto our special COVID-19 response page. If you go to our website, smartboxdental.com, right at the very top is a special message around COVID. It's a complete resource center. This video is going to be added right there so that you can see last week's webinar, you can see this week's webinar, and then all kinds of information around what you need to be doing to build the strategy and execute on the strategy. And that's all we do, build and execute, build and execute. Everything you saw tonight is just other strategies that we have built and executed for other doctors. And this stuff is applicable in every practice area, in every market, in every area of the country. We're in 49 states right now, from super urban to super rural, from 10,000 people in a city to 10 million people in a city. Not everything that we did tonight applies to everybody, but something that we did tonight applies to everybody. And failing to plan is planning to fail. If you leave this webinar and you don't go implement, you're not going to get any value out of it. So questions, there should be a question button on your Zoom tab. There's a Q&A tab, or there's also a webinar chat tab. Good evening, doctor. Washington State is closed until May 18th. Yeah, we've got some doctors in the Kennewick and Seattle markets, as well as south a little bit down near the Oregon border. So we're all up to date on Washington, and of course you guys are getting hit pretty hard there with the outbreak in the greater Seattle area. So yeah, our thoughts and prayers are with you at this time. Questions. Anybody want to see another slide again? If you have questions about a specific slide, feel free to drop it in. I can skip back to the slide and talk through it more. If you want to hear a little bit more about any implementation of some of the strategies in particular, I'm happy to talk through what that looks like, or real life, some of our dentists that are using it and how that's working for them. Specific scenarios that you want to talk about, something unique to your practice that you want to talk about. Yes, John, the entire video is going to be reposted. If you go to our website, there's a special COVID message right at the top, and this video is going to be posted in there probably not later tonight. The videos take a little bit of time to process, but definitely tomorrow, as soon as we can get it up there, this thing will be reposted. You can also see all the other COVID resources that we're throwing in there, as well as last week's webinar, and go ahead and opt in there. You can get notice of next week's webinar and all of the COVID responses. Mary asked, should we still apply for the SBA loan even though details haven't been worked out for this new forgiveness loan? I think part of that, Mary, is going to depend on your unique situation. Right now, what I'm seeing is they are applying the forgiveness in the draft of the bill. They are applying the forgiveness retroactively. Now, of course, that could change if they don't pass that in the live bill. But being that the negotiated bill has already largely passed all the hurdles, both House and Senate have verbally agreed to it. I don't think a nuance like that is something that's likely to get changed. I think if there's something that's likely to be changed, they're gonna add in some whole new section or some other component. I don't see that retroactive detail being changed. Of course, if you have the cash flow to float, to be 100% safe, I would wait until it's passed and you can read it for yourself. We'll update you next week I'm assuming that thing's going to pass today or tomorrow. So we'll keep that information, keep you guys updated on it. If you're in a position where you need the cash to keep going, I would advise you to go ahead and get the loan. I think there's a very high likelihood, given what I just said, that forgiveness is going to apply, as I understand it, retroactively. Your CPA or attorney might be able to give you some better guidance on that. Of course, if you call your attorney, he's probably going to tell you what all attorneys tell you: don't do it. I'll ping. What I'll do after we get off here, I'll ping one of my dental CPA friends and ask him if he has any thoughts on that other than what I've mentioned here tonight. Any final questions? Any other strategies? Any feedback for next week? Where are you guys seeing problems that have to be overcome? Where are you seeing stuff you're having trouble with? What questions are you getting that you're having trouble answering? How can we help support you through this? Cool. Hey, thanks, Dr. McDowell. Appreciate you. Thanks for hopping on here. Feel free to reach out to me during the week. You've got my email address right here. Again, this recording will be posted as soon as we can get it up tonight or tomorrow onto our website, the special COVID-19 Resource Center on our website, along with all kinds of other resources, information that is going to help you guys and gals get through this time. We've been here for almost 20 years. We're going to be here for another 20. If you have a question, if you need help, or if you're looking for somebody to really do some heavy lifting for you, I'm happy to help in any way we can. All you have to do is reach out. And sometimes just reaching out and asking for help is the toughest part. It's much like I tell my dentist. It's a no guilt environment here at SmartBox. There's no judgment. There's no guilt. We've just got to figure out how we're going to work through this situation. What do we need to do, and how do we need to structure it to make sure that when you reopen your practice, you've got full schedules, happy patients, and thriving and incentivized team members. And that's ultimately what a team-driven practice is. We've got to care for the 4 Ps. You guys remember the 4 Ps we talked about a little bit earlier tonight. We've got to care for the practice. We've got to care for the people, your team. We got to care for the patients. And then we also have to care for you, the person who signs the checks. And when we care for those 4 people, we have a magic thing happens. And that's when everything really is going well. We're trying to reschedule, let's see, tooth decay, reschedule after April 20, but a lot of patients are saying they want to wait till this is all over. How can we change their minds? Yeah, doctor, what I would say is a lot of the angst around rescheduling is there's two major components. There's safety and there's money, right? If you're talking about this from a safety component, go download our patient safety and security plan and letter. This is something that you can send out to your patients. We've provided this template right here at this link. I'll send the link out afterwards. This will help you to shore up the security and safety side of your practice. You know, if you have to have patients come in one at a time right now, one at a time is better than zero. And right now, that may be what you have to do. In a month or two, we can probably relax that a little bit. But right now, care for your patient's safety and their well-being is paramount. The other side of this is money. You know, people, unfortunately, view dentistry until they're in pain as everything is elective. And we've got to mitigate that impression and continue to reemphasize how dental health is important to them. You can do this through content that you're putting out, newsletters, social media posts, stuff like that. But also, you know, everybody loves getting their teeth cleaned. They love the way it feels after they go home. And if you can help them to mitigate the money part and, you know, maybe offer some kind of financing, especially on some of the restorative stuff that's more expensive. You know, most practices have care credit and they have all those terms. What do we need to do to figure out how to make this okay for the money? Maybe it's a COVID response plan discount. I'm not a big fan of discounts, but right now you're dealing with a community that has a lot of fear around the future. And however we can help to mitigate that is critical. You know, if you can say, hey, listen, we'll file your insurance. And if it's a standing patient, a regular patient that is in good standing, maybe you allow them to put off their copay. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to solve this. And the money and the safety are the two big concerns. We've got practices doing it 100 ways from Sunday. It's going to be a little bit unique to your practice and what kind of policies and practice you run there, specifically as to what you do. Dr. Mary, you mentioned a series of free services. I assume that is included if someone signs up for your services. Yeah, it sure is. This is the first 6 weeks. If we get somebody that signs up with us, this is what we're doing, and we're not charging them for the first 6 weeks. This is how we're helping all dentists to get their practice in shape to make sure that when they reopen, things are going to be running smoothly. If you just walk back into your practice, it's going to be a three-ring circus. Well, maybe the opposite of a three-ring circus. Nobody's going to be there. You're not going to have any patients, and you're going to have a lot of staff standing around, a lot of payroll without a lot of revenue coming in. Getting these things running, training up your team during this downtime is critical to coming out the other side of this and slingshotting out of this as fast as possible. And a lot of these things that we're doing here during this crisis are things we've been advocating for dentists to do during their slow periods forever. And this is just more immediately applicable given the situation that's going on right now. But, you know, using Success Academy, Dental Intel, leveling up your people with our evaluation system, our Practice HQ call reviews. We review every call that comes into your practice. We tag them. We show you the 5 A's to make sure you understand where your money's coming from. And that's what we do. Yes, we've got a marketing agency, and that's what I started SmartBox as. But ultimately, we're going to show you guys, and we're going to teach your team how to take that marketing money and do something more with it. You're not just checking a marketing box that says you did it. You need to convert that into calls, appointments, attended appointments, cases accepted, and an average case size that you can consistently maintain. We're going to show you how to do that with a team-driven practice. Cool. Anybody have any other questions? Usually I allot about 15 minutes for Q&A. We're at about 12 minutes right now. So maybe a one or two more questions and we'll call it a night here. Any questions, any feedback around what you want to see next week? Unique situations you're having difficulty with, struggles you're having in your practice. How can we help support you right now? What do we need to do to help get you through this gap? All right, well, we'll go ahead and adjourn for tonight. Appreciate everybody's time on here. Again, this will be posted, the full recording, and check out our website, the COVID Response Center, Resource Center on our website. We got a whole boatload. We got a metric ton of stuff on there that's going to support you through this and help you thrive during this difficult time. Thanks. I'll see you next Wednesday, same time, same place. Thanks, folks. Have a great week.